I'm doing a rare single episode review. And the reason I'm doing this is to get the review synced up so I can follow sort of more natural story breaks for the remainder of season 1. So instead of arbitrarily just doing 2 episodes at a time, I'm going to try to follow the natural flow of the story for these final few episodes. But just because it's only 1 episode doesn't mean there isn't plenty to talk about. So let's get to it. So as episode 16 starts off, I have to say that I'm a little bit surprised that there actually is a formal investigation going on into the Sawney and Bean murders. Do you call those murders? Do you call it assassinations? Do you call it destruction of property? I don't know what you call it when imprisoned titans get eliminated, but I want to call it murders. I don't know what else to say. But I really kind of expected the military police to just look the other way. I kind of expected nobody to really care here, but they are doing an investigation. What I thought would happen is sort of like a Scooby Gang type of investigation where maybe some of the younger characters that we've been following would try to figure out what's going on, but it looks like that's not the case at all. It looks like they're going to be pretty busy doing other stuff. But as far as this investigation, or at least what we see at the beginning of this episode, they do seem to be focusing disproportionately on the cadets here. And also, it's kind of interesting that the cadets do have a diversity of opinion on the matter. We see some people say, like, what's it matter? We're supposed to kill titans, right? Like, how do you get in trouble for killing titans? But then, I think it's Armin specifically, maybe some others too, but Armin points out they've actually hurt humanity by doing this because this study of the Titans was helping humanity get some information they needed to better understand the Titans, to better take the fight to the Titans. And he makes a pretty good point that I think his point of view is what we're supposed to agree with. I mean, do you disagree? However, personally, I think if he set his mind to it, Armin could just solve the case. He could be like our little junior-sized Sherlock Holmes and have this all over and done with in half an episode. But we're going to see he's got other stuff on his plate right now. Here early on in the episode, we see that Marco's memory, Marco's influence from beyond the grave, it really hangs heavily over this episode. And I'd say it's like his metaphorical ghost is here. And I have to say metaphorical because it's not beyond the scope of possibility that his actual ghost might show up at some point. But for right now, it's his metaphorical ghost that's kind of hanging in this atmosphere with the cadets. And they show some flashbacks to some key scenes he was in. And I got to admit that I had undervalued that character in the past. I don't think I had given him the full attention that he deserves because he really is there in some key points. Particularly, he's key in the changes that Jean goes through and the development of that character that I'll talk more about in a bit. But yes, Marco was really more present than I think I gave him credit for. I think I rarely mentioned his name until he died. But it is the day for the cadets to decide which branch to join. Now, membership in the military police is limited to the top 10 members of the class. But other than that, they have a pretty open choice. They can willfully go into the garrison or they can go into the Survey Corps. And just because they're in the top 10 doesn't mean they have to join the military police. It just means they have that option. So they could still decide not to join the military police and instead to go with the Survey Corps or the garrison. And Jean was one of the top graduates of the class, and he has options before him. But you see that he's conflicted here. And I'm going to say that he feels compelled to join the Survey Corps. And I really do think it's appropriate to call this a compulsion because his thoughts on the matter, it really goes deeper than thoughts. It's his feelings on the matter. They're operating on 2 different levels. There's the cognitive level that tells him, my goal from the beginning was to join the military police. That the smart thing for me to do is not to join the Survey Corps. But then on that emotional level and that feeling of duty, this deeper level at his core, he's being compelled. It's almost like he's compelling himself against his own will. Like his will is at war with itself as to what to do, and he can't hold back that compulsion. And he does feel that he needs to join the Survey Corps. And I really honestly think if you're looking for a good, succinct, easy to grasp example of what a character arc is, what we see from Jean in this first season up until this point, I think that would be like a classic textbook definition of a character arc, where a character is one way, he experiences conflict, he experiences challenges, he lives life in a way that it changes him. And it is shown so clearly with Jean going from the person who I thought was going to be an adversary. I said keep an eye out on him when we first see him in the mess hall. I thought he's going to be a troublemaker. He lives life in about 12 or 13 episodes. Really, he starts to come around quicker than that. But he becomes a very different person at this point in the story. And it all makes sense. It's all believable. And with what he faces and Marco, you know, that ghost, the metaphorical ghost that's hanging out in this situation, we see him point out that it's because Jean is a bit weak that he's able to comprehend how every soldier feels in every situation. I don't feel like it's disingenuous at all. I feel like it's very deserved, this change in who he is. And even when we get further down the arc where he does decide to join the Survey Corps, there's still conflict within him. It's a compulsion that makes him do it. And I mean, there are plenty of good examples of character arcs for people. But this is one that's really well contained. It's in a limited period of time here, but it's done in a way that's justified and doesn't feel arbitrary or unbelievable. I think Jean is a great example to show somebody if for some reason they didn't quite understand what you mean by character arc. But on this choosing day, and like I said, this isn't Harry Potter, there's no sorting hat. Everybody has some degree of choice. I would say with the exception of Aaron, maybe, because I think technically you could say that the Survey Corps chose him. He didn't choose them. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that if given the choice, Aaron would have chosen the Survey Corps, but he went through the tribunal and Levi came out and kicked one of his teeth out and made that whole display. And he is probably the only cadet who was forced to go into a specific branch. So the fact that the Survey Corps chose him instead of the other way around, I have to wonder if that's significant, particularly when you watch some of the interactions between Aaron and the Survey Corps. I just think it's going to be kind of key to keep that in mind as this season finishes up and through the next few seasons, to remember this is like the one person in all of the Attack on Titan military structure who seems to have been chosen by a branch rather than choosing his branch. And just drawing a little bit more attention to this, we see Levi interacting with Aaron. And Levi tells Aaron, hey, you remember that you're only alive because Levi agreed to watch him. But if you stop and think about it, I have to ask myself, I ask myself this out loud when I'm watching the episode, but who's really doing who a favor here? Now, Levi is painting himself in a certain light to say, hey, don't forget, Aaron, that I'm the only reason you're alive because I'm here to watch you. But also, I don't think Levi just did this out of the goodness of his heart. And I might be proven wrong. I'm not claiming to know everything here. But I get the feeling that Levi saw a use for Aaron, and it wasn't his love of humanity that led him to go beat him up while he's chained to a pole in the middle of a tribunal. I think Aaron is a tool, and the only thing Aaron needs to be grateful for is that he had a skill that Levi found valuable. Levi wasn't out just trying to save people from bad situations necessarily, at least not as it pertains to Aaron here. But we get to see Erwin speak to the cadets. And I have to say it's spelled on the subtitles, and I pronounced it the way that I felt inclined to pronounce it, which is Erwin. But it does deserve a Germanic pronunciation, as somebody pointed out. And if you listen to the pronunciation in the show, it is more like Erwin. So Erwin speaks to the cadets, and he says, it's time to end this century of Titan rule. So what does he really mean by Titan rule? Because the Titans aren't really ruling. This isn't like some alien class of people that have come down and proclaimed themselves like I'm the Thanos in this situation. The Titans are more like an unfortunate circumstance than rulers. And I think it's pretty interesting to me that he didn't say it's time to end the existence of the Titans or to eliminate the threat of the Titans. Erwin very specifically says time to end Titan rule. So I wonder if maybe, just maybe, this is a comment to the fact that the ruling class may depend on the fear of the Titans in order to maintain their power, in order to maintain the current power structure, in order to maintain the status quo. So that this piece of the puzzle, this boogeyman, if you'll allow me to use that term, is something that's actually propping up the ruling class in humanity's last form here, this civilization in the world of Attack on Titan. I can't help but think that when Erwin says this, Erwin specifically says time to end this Titan rule rather than time to free ourselves of this fear of the Titans or eliminate the threat of the Titans. He specifically uses that word rule, which fuels my little mini conspiracy theories about what is Ervin really up to, what is his real goal. He has introduced plenty of mystery himself with the things he says and the way he says that, and we'll explore that a bit more in a bit. But I do think that I honestly believe word choice absolutely matters in this show, and if two words mean kind of the same thing, I think the one that's used is used for a reason, and at least I'm going to look into it. If I'm proven wrong, so what? I'm having fun thinking about it. Ervin also lets everyone in on this basement situation. This basement back in Shigansina, I think is how it's said. And he doesn't keep his cards close to his vest on this topic. I wasn't expecting that. I really thought that this was going to be a little bit more secretive. This was going to be maybe sort of a hidden sub-mission within the larger mission to just simply retake territory. I thought this would be kind of kept on the hidden side of things, but he's very transparent with this. And I don't know why he is, just because I've come to expect the worst of everybody in this show, I suppose. Maybe it'll help for recruitment purposes to talk about this. I don't know, but he doesn't come across as the best recruiter to me with some of the things he's about to say. I've just come to expect lies and secrets from everything, I suppose. But Ervin confirms some of my theories to a degree, because he also seems to think that this basement is going to hold the answers to the nature of the Titans, that this basement is going to crack the code. This basement is going to contain something that lets us know all of the Titans' secrets. Now, of course, since he appears to have confirmed my suspicions and my theories, it makes me believe that I need to rethink my theories, because nothing so far in this show has been this simple, So what is in there then? I don't know now. I've got to come up with something other than what he just said. Maybe it's just a map to the next location, like, sorry, your princess is in another castle. Wouldn't that be a real thing to experience? And as I'm sitting watching the episode, I'm trying to figure out what Ervin is really up to. Then Armin, I'm telling you, I couldn't believe it when this happened, but Armin kind of becomes like my mini-me. He becomes a surrogate for me because he just comes out and questions, hey, he says, I wonder what Ervin's true motives are. And this just proves to me that no matter how clever I might think I am, no matter how many wonderful ideas that I'm proud of myself for, I just can't outthink this show. So I shouldn't try to outthink it. I should just enjoy it, right? But then again, a whole lot of what brings me joy is trying to think about things and trying to see where it's going. I get just as much joy from being wrong as I do from being right. That's not so bad, is it? But this show has, on more than one occasion, anticipated my thoughts, and it's let me know that it knows what I'm thinking, as if a show is a sentient thing. You get what I'm getting at here. It's kind of telling me I need to think a little bit more, I need to think a little bit deeper, and that the show is probably an order of magnitude ahead of me on the plot's direction. And at least as it relates to me, this is a really effective way of getting me to keep thinking about the episode. Like, I keep thinking about it long after it's over. Even if I weren't making videos, I would continue thinking about what's going on here. And it gets an engagement for me that goes well beyond the viewing experience. And that makes me a really loyal watcher and makes me go beyond just enjoying it to being a fan. Back to Ervin. In his presentation to the cadets, he mentions that in the last 4 years, the Survey Corps has lost 60% of its soldiers. And when I say lost them, I mean they're not lost, they know where they are. They're like in big balls of Titan vomit or in Titan bellies or something. They're dead. 60% have died in the past 4 years. I've got to say that this doesn't really sound like a great recruitment speech to me. I mean, like, after this, if they said to me, like, do you want to join? I'd probably say, nah, I'm good. I'll just stay over here with the garrison. I saw Hannes. He was drinking beer and playing cards. That's a little more my speed than dying in the next 4 years. But after this, Ervin goes on to say something that kind of sets the hook. And what he says is that if you live those 4 years, you're basically unkillable at that point. Like, if you can survive 4 years in the Survey Corps, the world is your oyster. And I think that's the right kind of hook to set to get the kind of people that are the right kind of crazy for the Survey Corps. Because we have established plenty well at this point, they're crazy. And also, I guess I've got to remember and think back to when I was a younger person, and at least as it relates to me, you really can't underestimate the ego of youth. Because I'd say close to 100% of those cadets who join, they think they'll be the 40% that are unkillable, but we all know that's mathematically impossible, right? I mean, I'm no statistician, but I just think that's how numbers work or something. And despite all the things that she had said to the contrary, I gotta say at this point, I still really thought Annie would join the Survey Corps. Like somehow I thought she'd have this change of heart or something. And the biggest reason I thought that's because we saw her in action, and we saw that she seemed like probably the only one of the cadets that was close to Mikasa in terms of Titan killing ability, Titan butt kicking ability. So I expected her to have some kind of change of heart or some kind of plot contrivance that would get her to end up with the Survey Corps, but that doesn't happen. And then I was also getting real worried that Connie wasn't going to join. And you know, the music was just hitting the right way to give me this concern while he's struggling with the decision. And that music, I have to say that so far I haven't really talked enough about the music in Attack on Titan, but this episode in particular, well, the music deserves praise, I'll just say that. But after most of the cadets leave, the few who wish to join the Survey Corps remain, and then Erwin asks a question. Can you die if ordered to? And I was kind of surprised by both the answer he gets, as well as Erwin's response to that answer. But the cadets shout, "I want to live!" And Erwin gives like this most satisfied grin. And I guess it was that grin that allowed me to realize, or helped me realize, that he doesn't want pawns. He's not looking for human shields. What he wants for the Survey Corps are survivors, independent thinkers. Again, the ones the others call crazy. And yeah, I call them crazy too. But in this moment, he feels like a real leader. You know, he also feels dangerous though. Dangerous to the status quo at least. Because I could see him having the potential to become sort of a Julius Caesar type figure too. I feel like the story's going to reward me for supporting Erwin, but I feel like there are some heartbreaks up the show's sleeve yet to be played. And something I love about the Survey Corps is that even the horses are crazy. That's how you know they mean business, because there's this horse named Shallot, and they tell you watch out because if you're not looking, Shallot's gonna bite your hair off. And the horse's handler even has like this bandana wrapped around his head. I don't know if it's a bandana to protect his hair or it's a bandage from all the time his hair's been bitten by this horse. But he's got that thing on his head to prove he's telling the truth about Shallot. And then we see Shallot try to eat his hair a few times while he's talking to the new recruits. So I love this maverick spirit, and that pun is intended that goes all the way to the horse. Maybe they can turn that horse into a Titan. I don't know, send Shallot out to bite all the Titan's hair off. Imagine what it would be like if he got a hold of that bearded Titan and just started chewing the beard off. So I want to see Titan Shallot now. But before heading out on the new expedition, the plans are shared with the new cadets. The plans are all very detailed, but they do point out that Eren's location isn't shared. And again, I have to wonder why, because like I said before, I don't think there's any wasted words on this show. Like, why is there some measure of secrecy, but at the same time they're not hiding Eren because his friends are able to find him? So I don't quite know why Erwin is doing some of the things he does, but I do feel pretty convinced there's a reason for it. He's not like Pixis, who's just a little eccentric and weird. I think Erwin is very calculating. But this episode revisits Erwin's question from the end of the previous episode, when he asks, Eren, what do you think the enemy is? And I have to point out that this time it really caught my attention more than before, that he asked what and not who. So is time the enemy? Is oppression the enemy? Is circumstance the enemy? Like, using what instead of who certainly opens up a whole lot more of these abstract possibilities. So I'm curious to see what he means. Like, I hope we get the answer to this at some point. And I also like that some of the senior members admit that they don't know the answer. And at least one of the members of the Survey Corps suggests that perhaps it's better if they don't know Erwin's purpose. And this is blind faith. And it makes me wonder, like, what has Erwin done to earn that blind faith? He must have been very effective in some difficult situations to earn that kind of trust from the troops underneath him. But it makes me wonder again if this makes him dangerous. And being dangerous isn't necessarily a bad thing, because it's also a powerful thing. It's something worthy of consideration. Like I kind of mentioned before with Julius Caesar, it makes me think of the seeds of military culture that led to the transition of the Roman Republic to become the Roman Empire, because suddenly there were armies that their loyalty was to their leader and not to the nation, and that made the leader more powerful than the nation, and then you go from a republic to an empire. And I'm not saying that's where this show is going, I'm just pointing out that that type of power may be present. We see yet another reunion between Mikasa and Eren, and this is the first time they've really gotten to speak to one another since the whole Trost conflict. And she expresses overwhelming concern for Eren and for Eren's well-being, and it makes it kind of clear that Mikasa's life mission is Eren's well-being. And she also marks Levi for retribution, and I gotta say that, like, that's a battle I can't wait to see, Mikasa versus Levi. Maybe I'm giving Mikasa too much credit, but I think that would be a pretty epic battle. She also calls Levi short, and I wonder if she's insinuating that he has like a bit of a Napoleonic complex. Maybe he comes across so bitter and tough and rough because he's a little self-conscious about his height. I don't know, or maybe she just pointed out. But like I said, no wasted words. But in this moment, I do have to say that I don't think she's just concerned for Eren's physical well-being. I think she may be concerned for his moral well-being. She might not only resent Levi for the beating he gave Eren, but she might worry about what Levi wants to turn Eren into, and that Levi might want to mold Eren into something as dark as himself. Like, Eren has already become a Titan, so he's become sort of a physical monster, but maybe Mikasa is concerned about Eren becoming the metaphorical monster I speculated on earlier in the season. And I think long-term, this might be setting up Eren and Mikasa to be at odds with each other. They're both very committed to doing what's right, but unable to agree about what right is. Perhaps. So using the frame of reference I have, comparing it to something I know, I'm going to compare it to Game of Thrones. And I wonder, in this relationship between Mikasa and Eren, well, I wonder who's the Jon Snow and who's the Daenerys Targaryen. I won't say more, I'm just going to leave it at that, but you either get what I'm angling at or you don't. I just see some way, somehow, for this being a real heartbreaker for me on down the road. And with Annie, like, we have to see her again, right? Like, she's just far too interesting of a character to go off and never be mentioned again. She can't just be like Poochie in that rocket ship from Itchy and Scratchy. Maybe we'll eventually see a conflict between the Survey Corps and the military police, and she'll be like the sharp, feared adversary. Maybe she'll be like the Neil Patrick Harris character from Starship Troopers. I'm pretty sure I've already used that analogy with another character, but I don't care. I'm gonna do it again. But as they head out on their big expedition, we see children watching them in awe. And it's like a flashback to 5 years ago when Eren was watching the Survey Corps march out. And I'm such a sucker for echoes, and this is one solid echo. So I'll be back soon with the reaction to episode 17, and then some more multi-episode reviews. Until then, goodbye. She'll be like the sharp, feared adversary. She'll be like the sharp, feared adversary.